Welcome everybody, this is How to English, Teach and Learn with Gav and Em.
It's a podcast about teaching and learning English as a foreign language.
All opinions stated are personal and references will be given when necessary. Gav, what's the topic today?
Tim?
Gav, what's the topic today?
The topic of today's episode is giving up.
Can we talk about it? Because I'm not sure about that title.
Well, let's discuss it, Em.
Giving up. Giving up's dramatic, isn't it? I was thinking it should be about stopping, having a break, maybe going for a muffin, coming back, carrying on. But you want to talk about actually giving up, like completely giving up?
Totally quitting, walking away and saying, that's it, throw your arms up in the air, I'm not doing that again.
Interesting. Well, okay, let's go for it.
But we might find a compromise here. But let's talk about it and see where we go, Em. What exactly are we giving up?
So is it activities, tasks, lessons, courses, jobs possibly?
Oh, you're going macro on us now, Em.
Macro, surely.
Yes.
Small to big.
That's right.
Let's start with the small stuff then, which isn't always small stuff. It can feel very big when the activity's not going right, when the thing you'd planned is bombing.
Have you ever experienced this, Em?
Have I ever experienced? Let me think. Yes, Gav, just literally an hour ago I experienced that.
No way! So this is hot feedback.
Yes, I suppose it is, because even after all my years of teaching, I can still have a bad lesson and do an activity that just doesn't work. And that is exactly what has happened today. I am willing to share it with you if you promise not to tell anyone, okay?
Of course, it's just between the two of us. Was there a point where you thought to yourself, I need to give up?
Well, honestly, yes, there was that moment, and then I just powered through and thought, I have to carry on, I've planned this. I was like a dog with a bone, Gav.
Was it your captive audience? And you thought, this is my only chance to teach this lesson. I'm going to make the most of it.
No.
I'm not going to let them leave.
No, it wasn't that. It wasn't a captive audience. I actually would have quite happily not done that lesson, but I had a student ask for this lesson. So I'm not blaming the students, not blaming them. It was me that planned all this, but I definitely overplanned and...
Underachieved?
Underachieved. That is a great summary, yes.
If I jump to psychologytoday.com, they have a fabulous article which talks all about the 8 ways you can tell that it's the right time to quit. Maybe, you were focused on the time and energy that you had already invested in preparing that lesson.
That was an element of it, I think you're right, because I'd spent a long time planning it. It was a topic that was out of my comfort zone. It was very technical vocabulary, and the student, I think, was more qualified than me to talk about it, but didn't have the language. So I'd spent a really long time thinking about it, planning it, finding activities that perhaps weren't the best activities, but I found them. So I thought, right, this is what we need to do. So maybe it was a bit like you said. I just felt like I needed to see it through, keep going with it. I definitely talked too much.
Oh, so heavy on the teacher talking time and light on the student talking time.
And it wasn't fun. And we had a long list of vocabulary gap fill thing that I just kept going with. And I don't know why I kept going. I should have just stopped.
It doesn't have to be fun.
Doesn't it? I don't know. Okay, not fun, but at least engaging, at least doable. They were struggling. It was too hard. They didn't know the answers. I was just giving them the answers after every question where there was silence. It was really painful.
So let me summarise. You had a student. The student asked you to prepare some very specific language. Am I right so far?
Yes, you are right so far.
You sat down. You did a little Googling on the net. You maybe went through some of your technical books and you compiled lists of words, phrases, expressions. Is that basically it?
Exactly that. And all I did, Gav, was make a gap fill, and I put that into a page PDF, and I got the students to do the gap fill. And as I say, it was too difficult. They couldn't do it, but I kept going and I just kept giving them the answers after every silence that was endless, it felt like. And honestly, it was a bit like the CELTA, I think. I just had this checklist of things I needed to do and get through, and okay, that word's finished and we're going to the next one. And I wasn't really stopping to see if it was going in or if they were enjoying it or if they were even learning it.
You might find, Em, that your students actually did learn it and maybe they had a fantastic time. Did you ask for any feedback?
Yes, I did. They just said it was really difficult, but it was useful, which I interpreted as
boring.
Boring, yes. Polite way of saying boring. But like you say, maybe it doesn't have to be fun. At this point, I'd like to ask you, Gav, would you have given up?
Probably. I think if you had A to Z full of sentences with gap fills, I probably would have got to D.
Oh, I thought you were going to say P or something. Okay. Yeah. See, that's my problem. I should have given up a long time before Z.
Did you not read the signs?
Yeah, well, I was aware of the signs, the talking into an echo chamber, the lack of engagement. They were all there, Gav. The signs were all there. I should have just done a different thing. I should have either changed it up, put some speaking in there between the sections of words, or even just changed the activity completely. But I'm always a bit worried to do that. Just say, okay, we're going to stop and do something else. Would you say that? Would you say we're going to stop now? This isn't working.
I probably wouldn't say, okay, class, this activity's finished, even though we've only done 3 exercises out of the 26. I would gently ease into another activity, or maybe just focus on one of the questions that we just answered and said to the students, why don't you tell me a bit more about this topic because it looks very, very interesting? And then continue into this way of talking, chatting, teaching, learning, or maybe moving to something else they might enjoy.
So your theory is they probably wouldn't even notice you changing it, or they wouldn't mind, or they would reflect afterwards and think, yeah, that was a good thing he did that.
I might say to them, you can finish this exercise for your homework because it's perfect for that.
Yeah, I just think it looks unprofessional if you stop in the middle of something, but I don't know why. I don't know why I think that. There's no reason for that. It's absolutely fine just to switch it up, and even if you say, we'll come back to it another time, and then you just put it in the trash, it's fine to do that too. I suppose I think that my students are in my head and they can hear me screaming to myself, this is not working, this is terrible, we have to stop. And I feel like they can see that in my eyes, that is what I'm thinking. And they don't know. They have no idea what we're thinking and what's happening. And they probably would just think that was a good lesson and not even remember what happened.
And generally speaking, I think your students do trust you and they think, Em's switching to something else, we're transitioning to another task, let's just go with her.
Yeah, you're right. The trust is really important. So Gav, moving on to not just activities, but lessons. Have you ever walked out of a lesson, given up teaching it, and just walked away?
Do you mean literally walk away, Em?
Yeah, literally walk away.
I think I can count on one hand the number of times that I have abandoned an activity, but I cannot recall a single time I have not taught.
I'm the same. I haven't done it very often. I haven't actually left a class, and the times it's happened where I felt I needed to, luckily there's been other teachers around that I could call on to come to my rescue and either just take over the class or just help me to deal with whatever problem it was. But it is such an isolating feeling when you're in that room with all those people looking at you and you're just not happy and you don't want to carry on doing it. But it's interesting you say it's the fingers of one hand, and the same for me, because it just, I think, is something that is very taboo.
For some reason, we feel that we have failed if we decide to give up.
It is. It does feel like a failure. And I think society does frown on it. I think it isn't really accepted in our society. And you know, there's all those posters of kittens hanging on wires, and it's the phrase under...
You shouldn't be hanging kittens on wires.
No, I don't mean that. I mean, what is it? Clothesline, sorry. There's kittens holding on to clotheslines.
Oh, like a washing line.
Like a washing line. And there's a phrase below saying, hang in there, you can do it, keep going.
Oh.
And I think sometimes you've got to let go of the clothesline. There's no shame in giving up. So if you're in that situation, in a lesson, in front of all those students, maybe just say you have to go to the loo, I don't know, say if you're online, oh, I've lost my internet connection. Just do whatever it is that you need to do to take yourself away from it. Maybe you'll go back. Maybe you won't. Maybe you just can't do it. But I've seen teachers break down crying in front of their students and say, I can't teach this, it's too difficult, or I can't teach you, you're too difficult. And what situation causes that to happen? Like, what kind of pressure causes that to happen? Why do we feel like that as teachers, that we can't walk away from people?
That is quite awful. Maybe it's pressure from your peers, perhaps pressure from the company that you're working in.
I think most of the time, Gav, it's our own pressure that we put on ourselves. But yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe it is subliminal as well. But it is not the end of the world, is it? If you just have to quit a lesson and make an excuse or go and get another teacher. I feel like it is, but I think I have to wrestle my demons with that one.
Yeah, I feel like I don't want to give up. I probably have switched the camera off and just said, okay, we're going to do a listening task. Or
done a silent scream.
That's it. Maybe face to face, I might start a stop the bus game and just say, students, you take over, you have some fun, and then just give myself a few minutes just to recenter myself, get my energies back, and just get through the lesson.
And it might just be a bad day. It might be that you give up on that day, but you come back to it. But what happens, Gav, if it really isn't a bad day and you just don't want to teach that class anymore, full stop? Have you ever given up on a course?
I think I remember telling my boss that I would not like to teach this class anymore. They're doing my head in. Unfortunately, after my boss saying, have you tried this? Have you tried that? How about we do this for you? And me saying, okay, I'll give it another couple of weeks. And then go back to my boss and saying, I'm terribly sorry, but nothing is working. I cannot get them to learn things. They're not enjoying it. I'm not enjoying it. How about we find another teacher who might be more suitable?
I think that's in a nutshell the steps you have to go through. You have to try. You have to show you're trying. You have to try maybe again. You have to get your boss to tell you to try again.
And maybe speak to the students and say, oh, I don't seem to be engaging you in these activities. You don't seem to enjoy the topics that I'm choosing. Maybe you're not really enjoying the book, but this is the one that comes with this course. This is the one, I'm going to say your parents. Why am I picturing teenagers doing this conversation?
I don't know, but you're all right. I think when I think about the courses I've stopped teaching, those are generally the ones.
So talk to the students if you can, or if it's a one-to-one, try negotiating, see if you can get anywhere with the student. Maybe it's something really obvious, like they just don't like the time of the lesson. Maybe it's too early in the morning, or maybe they've got their boss over their shoulder and they don't feel very comfortable talking to you.
Yeah, Gav, it could be anything, and sometimes it just takes a small thing to fix it. But we know as teachers, we try, and there are occasions where trying just isn't going to do it. And it's a one-off. It doesn't determine you as a teacher. It's not that you will be forever a failure if you don't keep going with that course. And I, in my experience, have told employers this, and it's always gone better than I expected.
Yep.
I've always expected an argument. I've always thought there was going to be resistance from the boss. I've always thought that they'd probably just hang their head and say, well, I'm disappointed in you, Em. But no, it's always gone totally better than I thought, easier than I thought. And I've just regretted waiting so long because it doesn't take much for a company to change the teacher, and then it's better for everyone. It's better for you as a teacher. It's better for your students. They're getting better lessons with a different teacher. I've honestly never looked back, and I've been annoyed that I didn't quit earlier with that class. But you're right. It really requires you to have a supportive company that will listen to you and take action. And I think you've got to remember it's nothing new for them. And it's run of the mill. It's not because you're a bad teacher, and definitely don't blame your students.
Em, returning to psychologytoday.com, they have a point that might help us here. It's that you're not quitting because you're being thwarted and it's making your heart grow fonder.
You're saying that you keep teaching these difficult classes because it makes your heart beat faster and it makes you excited?
Well, you're seeing a challenge and you're thinking, I can achieve a mastery of teaching even with this group, this very challenging group.
I see. Well, yeah, there is a bit of that, isn't there? We always think the next class is going to be better. This is the one that I win them over on.
It could also be FOMO.
What's that?
Fear of making a mistake.
Oh, I thought that was fear of missing out.
This is a different FOMO.
This is EFL FOMO.
This is Psychology Today FOMO.
Oh, okay. So this is fear of making a mistake? What, you mean admitting defeat? Or,
yeah.
But I really want to talk a bit more about the thwarted heart growing fonder thing, because I've definitely felt that, but that is so relatable for me, that feeling. And before you go in, you have that sinking feeling, that feeling of dread of, oh, this is a really difficult class. And then you make such an effort. And it's also connected to what you said about Psychology Today with the investment of time. I've always, in my experience, planned harder, worked more before classes that I knew were hard. And you kind of resent the amount of time you put into it in the end.
Is that a bit like teaching the difficult child in the class and spending more time focusing on them rather than all the ones that deserve it?
Yes, Gav. Yes, it is. It's weird, but you're right.
Well, it's very confusing, Em.
You end up putting more energy into that one that's not working or not responding. So you get that horrible feeling of dread, and then you teach your pants off as best you can, and then you have this horrible feeling of disappointment afterwards.
You're disappointed or the students are?
Everybody's disappointed. And that is the time to quit, I think. That is the time to give up. When that is happening on a regular basis.
When you wake up in the morning and think, oh no. When you look at your calendar and think, I've got that class again today.
Yeah, when you wake up on Monday and you've got them on Friday and you have that feeling. That's when you've got to quit, I think. These are the red flags, people. Definitely just give up on those classes. It's not worth it. And ironically, Gav, the moment you give up on it will be the time that it suddenly gets better.
Oh, yeah, because you have video lessons instead.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
And you just play games.
Well, the pressure's off then, isn't it? And you just think the end is in sight. There is light at the end of this tunnel, and you love them. And they love you, and you leave thinking, well, maybe I shouldn't give up. But you should, because it will never, ever fix itself if you keep going.
Even if you look back and their eyes are welling with tears and you think, oh, I'm going to miss them so much. Remember that they have put you in the doldrums.
Yeah, I think that is when you know. And I think that we've highlighted a few good points of when I know, definitely.
It may not even be the students who are the issue for why you want to give up that class. It could be a conflict on your timetable. Maybe you've got too many classes, maybe they're moving around, and you have to say to your boss, I'm sorry, I just can't teach another class, or I can't teach on that day, because you're just overwhelmed.
And actually it's weird, because those are the ones that are really easy to give up, because it's clear why you're giving up and there's no wiggle room. You have to. So why is it so much easier to give up those classes and not the ones that you're just struggling to teach? It shouldn't be that hard.
As Psychology Today told us then, you have already invested all that time and energy.
Yeah, that's another thing, isn't it? You've planned it, you've taught them, you've got to know them all. You sort of think, well, it's going to be harder to start again. Better the devil you know, as they say.
That is true. You don't want to jump out of the frying pan into the fire.
That's right. So we keep going with things that are not enjoyable.
So the fourth level of our giving up, Em,
The fourth horseman of the apocalypse
is the company, the firm, the organisation that you're working for. Perhaps you are being mistreated.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Then definitely give up.
Bullied. Discriminated against.
All of those, Gav. Yep.
These are very serious issues.
Yeah. So never tolerate this. This is definitely a deal breaker. Get out of there. There are also grey areas there where I've had issues with payment, salary being paid late every month, getting later and later each month, where it's just becomes a wearing situation where you're just constantly fighting to get paid, and that's not cool.
It could be a big company, it could be a family-run company, and you speak to the boss and they say, don't worry, we'll have your money next week, and you come back to them next week and they're still not ready, or they've some excuse, and you feel some loyalty to them, but you shouldn't, because this is your right, this is your money, you should be paid on time.
Yeah, and I think it starts to really get to you if it's happening on a regular basis and you're feeling unhappy most of the time. I think you have to ask, if you're not sure, because you're right, it starts to make you doubt yourself. You start to think, well, am I the one that's making this a big deal? Maybe it's not such a big deal. But I think if you ask other teachers, maybe other people in different companies, even your family and friends, get a different perspective on it, because often they can see clearly that it isn't a good situation, and then you have the extra validation. But there are situations where it is just a gradual
decline,
exactly, and then you end up getting more tolerant of it and it just becomes the norm.
And then you speak to a colleague and they say, what? You didn't get paid on time?
Yeah, and that shock in their reaction makes you realise, well, that isn't cool. So it's a really, really hard one, and it's a horrible thing to have to decide to leave a job. But sometimes it's necessary, and if it's, as I said, if it's affecting your health, if it's stopping you sleeping, if it's all you're thinking about.
It takes a lot of courage, Em, to quit.
It does take a lot of courage. But the good news is EFL has a lot of jobs available. So hopefully you will get something else. And if you need to secure something before you quit, then do that. So you've got a safety net, but don't put up with it. It's not fair. And I think that that's another thing with EFL. There's not a lot of regulation. There's not a lot of unions or teacher representatives in these companies. Some companies have them, but an awful lot of them don't. So it's really up to you to know if you're being treated fairly. And the only way you're going to know is how you feel and what other people think about that as well. I've definitely experienced this where I've stayed much, much longer than I needed to, that I should have stayed because of the loyalty that you've mentioned, because of the work put in, because of just thinking I can make it better and that it will hopefully change.
And maybe you were a novice teacher at the time and you didn't have the experience you have now?
Yeah, that's another really good point. I think sometimes bad companies rely on your inexperience to take advantage of you, and that's shameful. Can I just say, Gav, this is really interesting talking to you about this, because our last episode with Annie was all about setbacks. Do you remember that?
I do remember. Series 4, episode 11.
So I'm noticing a pattern in myself that I tend to think of everything as just a setback. And I think it will just improve if I work harder.
You explain it away and then think, it'll be fine tomorrow.
Yeah. And I think that it's a skill to recognise when it's time to give up. And I think talking to you about it today has shown me I'm actually really bad at knowing when to give up.
Well, it's part of our culture, as we said earlier.
Maybe that's it. I can blame society for it, but it is something as teachers to think about.
You're not a failure if you give up.
No.
Just
no.
picture those kittens falling to the ground. You know what they say about kittens?
They land on their feet.
Sunny side up. 9 lives. What is it?
I don't know. It depends what country you're from. Some say 7, some say 9.
Oh, okay.
But you are going to bounce back like a fluffy kitten. That is true, Gav. So it's not the worst thing if you say, I give up. Shall we practice now, Gav?
What do you mean, Em?
Just say it with me.
Don't.
I give up.
Oh, yeah.
I
give up.
There we go. It wasn't that hard.
Shall I press the stop button?
No, we're going on because I've got a question for you. We've been talking about a lot of teaching stuff here, but what about students, Gav? Would you tell your students to give up?
Oh, no.
No, why not?
Because they have to decide for themselves if they want to give up.
You've hit the nail on the head there. That is the crucial thing, isn't it? It's a bit of a paradox, isn't it, Gav, that you can get advice for when you should give up, but you shouldn't tell other people to give up?
I guess so. If my colleague said, Gav, you need to quit with this company or with this class or with this exercise, this activity, but I wouldn't say to them, that's a terrible activity. Why are you doing that?
No.
So maybe we don't tell people, but maybe people tell us. I don't know, Em.
Maybe. I think the point is you don't tell people to give up. You just tell them how you think it looks as a situation or as a lesson or whatever. You say, well, actually, that doesn't sound good, or that lesson sounded like it could have been better, or that company doesn't sound like they're treating you well. But I don't think you can actually say give up, because that is, as you said, up to that person to decide.
It's a bit like quitting other things, like you have to decide yourself if you're going to quit biting your nails.
Good example. You've got to want to do it. That is it. Nobody can tell you to do it, only nag you or just point things out.
I might nag at my students if they say, Teacher Gav, why am I not proficiency level? I've been studying for 35 minutes a week for the last 10 weeks. I don't understand.
Yeah, exactly. But you have to just point out the facts. You cannot say, you're never going to get there, give up. That is it in a nutshell. You have to do it for yourself. Let's stop talking about giving up now and move on to
Learn a word. And this week, Em, learn a word comes from Merriam-Webster's Words at Play Commonly Confused Words list. And the reason we're choosing this topic is we were inspired by Sergio at Grammar Drops on Instagram and YouTube.
Shout out to Sergio.
And Sergio mentioned a couple of words that were very similar. For example, colour and collar.
You mean similar in pronunciation?
I do.
Right, because those are very different things.
They are.
So colour with an sound. Colour, and collar with an sound. Collar.
And you said them very clearly, Em. Can you give me an example with each of those words, starting with colour?
Colour, red, blue, green, like the rainbow. Colour, and collar is the thing around your neck that you put a tie on.
Or maybe put it on a dog.
Or a tie on a dog? Why would you do that?
No, like a leash on a cat, dog,
Oh,
animal.
You mean, yes, you attach the leash to the collar. That's the little bit of fabric or leather, whatever, around the neck. Yes, okay, so collar.
And remember, the American pronunciation may be different from the British. Again, we've got another level of confusion, Em. I've got 2 more words for you, Em. These sound very, very similar, but what I'd like you to do is to pronounce them for me and describe their uses and maybe give me an example sentence. The 2 words are access and excess.
Access with an A sound. Access.
ACCESS.
So to enter, to go in to a building, for example, to access the building. And excess with an E sound, like egg.
EXCESS.
Excess is more than is necessary. What's that word?
Overfilled Easter egg.
An overfilled Easter egg. What a lovely image. That would be an excess of chocolate in the Easter egg.
I'm drooling at the thought of it, Em. Let me give you 2 more words. Eminent and imminent.
Oh, I like it. Eminent. Eminent.
EMINENT.
that would be important or well respected. So an eminent politician is visiting us next week.
Very nice. I hope so. And
Imminent with an I.
IMMINET.
So I could say the politician's visit or the eminent politician's visit is imminent, meaning it's going to happen soon.
Oh, I like that.
I think imminent is used quite often in disaster movies, like the meteoroid impact is imminent.
Oh, that sounds like it's going to happen really, really soon.
Yeah. Run!
I've got 3 more words for you, Em. Statue, stature, and statute.
Oof. Okay. Statue, like a figure made of stone or marble standing in the middle of a square, like a statue of Nelson Mandela.
STATUE.
Statue. What was the other one?
Stature.
Stature. Stature is about, I think, how tall you are and how impressive you are.
That is also the use of stature. STATURE.
So how do we use it? She has an impressive stature.
Gained by her abilities or achievements in life.
Really? I thought it was physical.
No, it could be reputation as well.
Ah, that's interesting. Good. Okay. And the last one was statute.
STATUTE.
Something to do with laws? I think it's something written down in a something or other.
A written law passed by a legislative body.
Yeah, not an everyday word, but you never know. Isn't it statutes of limitations or something like that?
That sounds very familiar. And finally, 2 more popular words. Wander and wonder.
Ooh, I like these ones. Wander and wonder.
Often misused.
So wander, WANDER. That's to walk around with no direction. To wander around the city centre.
Lonely as a cloud.
That is poetry, Gav.
Wordsworth, Em.
Oh, the worth of words. Wordsworth. Compare it with wonder.
I wonder what Em will say next, WONDER.
Exactly. Think about, imagine, wonder. And I feel like this is a really cruel couple of words because wander, to walk around, is spelt with a WA and looks like it should be wander. And wonder, like thinking about something, is WONDER, which looks like wander.
Oh, that is so
which is
confusing.
walking around with no purpose. So it's no wonder, excuse the pun, our students don't get them right.
And they wander into the wrong classrooms.
Absolutely, Gav.
Thank you again to Sergio for that suggestion. And next week, Em, do you know what the topic is?
What is the topic, Gav?
The topic of our next episode, M, is called Mistakes, and it will be looking at mistakes that speakers of particular languages make when speaking English.
Intriguing.
I am going to be there, and we have to say a very thank you.
A very thank you. I'm glad you're going to be there, by the way. I wouldn't want to do it on my own.
Special shout out to Charlotte at Charlotte Teaches English, who suggested this topic, and I am very, very excited to share this with you and everyone, Em.
Great idea, Charlotte. Thank you. So, Gav, until next time.
Let's quit.
No, we're not. We're not going to quit. What are you talking about?
We're going to give up?
No, we're not.
We're just going to keep going.
We're kittens. No, I don't know. This has gone weird now.
Em, hang in there. We can do this.
Stop.